I'm using this V-Guard pressure pump for the last 4 years. Now it's starting to create some problem. So I'll tell you what the problem is. Let me turn on the pressure pump. So the pump is on at the moment, but it never cuts off. Even if I try to adjust the balance of Danfoss pressure sensor, yeah, the pump keeps going. So if it cuts off, it directly cuts off. Even if I open something in my home, it just it doesn't start again. So, but if I increase the pressure a little bit, yeah, it keeps running and it doesn't stop. So I had to loosen it up again. So this Danfoss pressure sensor has gone. So I'm planning to replace this one. I'll tell you how I'm going to replace this. I got the same Danfoss pressure switch. It's the same model. It's exactly the same model. So all I had to do was uh, remove the pressure switch from the motor, take this away and connect this, and remove these two wires, connect it here. And I also need to remove this housing to see where these wires are going, and I'm going to connect the wires. I have replaced the pressure switch. The range which I actually set is around 45 bars of the range, and for differential I have set for 15 psi. So these are both psi units. So currently the motor is on. I have turned on the power, but the motor is not on. The reason is because there is a pressure buildup which is actually on the pipe and the cylinder. So once I turn on the tap, since the pressure drops down below that 15 differential psi, the motor will automatically turn on. I'll show you that. So I open the tap and the motor starts on. Now if I close the tap, the motor will automatically stop. So there is two different type of pressure pumps. So this one is actually a fixed speed pressure pump. There is another one called variable speed pressure pump. So I'll explain you about the fixed speed pressure pump. Fixed speed pressure pump, the only thing which it does is turns on the motor or turns off the motor. So if the pressure drops below a certain range, the motor will turn on, and once the motor turns on, the pressure increases to a certain range, the motor will turn off. um, which works 90% of the time, but there's a small instance where this fails to work. So I'll show you how it is. So if I don't want the tap to be fully opened, but I want the tap to be opened only like 10%. Yes. So at this case, what really happens is once the pressure threshold drops, the motor will turn on. And once the motor turns on, it increases the pressure in the pipe to a certain extent, it automatically turns off. So this cycle will keep going and going and going forever if you have the tap open just 25%. So it's always recommended to at least keep the tap a little more open, not to that level, so that the motor doesn't like keeps turning on and turning off. By the way, this can be controlled with the pressure switch, but again, this is the maximum I was able to control. I was not able to control beyond this threshold where that the motor can keep running. So yeah, so this is actually the fixed speed pressure pump. There is another thing called variable speed pressure pump, which is available in India in a brand called Danfoss. The model number is Scala 2. So what that does is, based on the requirement of the water, the motor basically runs slowly and not at a full pace. So the problem is when the motor runs at full pace, what really happens is the pressure builds up really fast here. So the motor automatically turns off. So in variable speed pressure pump, the motor doesn't turn on at the full speed, but turns on like in like a 25% speed, so that the pressure doesn't build up really fast. So that's a variable speed pressure pump.